Hi everyone, welcome back to Crochet Rocks, and in this tutorial I'm going to show you how to make this chunky baby beanie which would fit a size 0 to 3 months. I would say 0 to 6 months, it just might stretch that much. It's a chunky beanie, so it's actually not huge, but it obviously is stretchy. So I would say definitely 0 to 3, but you may get longer from it. I'm going to make a couple of other beanies larger sizes, but for now this one is the 0 to 3 months. So the yarn I'm using is a bulky 5, but or in the UK it's classed as a chunky. I got this one in a shop called B&M, and they had this really lovely kind of spotty fleck yarn. It's really lovely and soft, but you can use any bulky 5 or chunky yarn. So I've already made one in this colour. I'm going to do a pink one. They do this in blue as well with the little flecky spots in, and they also do it in pink. So I'm going to make a pink one for you now and show you how to do that. So I have this boy hook has J, but I think it's a 6 in the UK size. I'll just check that in a second. But also you'll need some darning needles and a pair of scissors, but it doesn't take a great deal. Now out of this 100-gram skein, I made the hat, and I've also made one of these mittens. I'm going to do a tutorial for these as well. I've edged them in fur, the same as the hat, so I'll do the tutorial for this afterwards. So I've still got all this yarn left over, so 100-gram skein will do more than enough. So I'm also going to edge it in a furry kind of yarn on the outside. Now the one that I've used for this came free with the magazine. I just used an offcut. You don't really need a great deal at all of the furry yarn, and it was called Crochet Crafts, and it's just a chunky fluffy yarn, very, very soft. But I've also got this Peter Pan Precious chunky, and this one's a cream colour. So I was just going to see which one I preferred with the pink, whether I just do pink and white or the pink and cream. I think the cream looks really nice with the pink. You could do any, but I'm going to do this colour for this particular hat, so it's different from this one. So if you'd like the tutorial for the mittens, I'm going to do these shortly. Now both the hat and the mittens will have left-handed and right-handed tutorials, and I'll put a link from one to the other, as well as at the end of the video a link to all of the left-handed tutorials on the right-handed one, just so that it's easy to find if you need it. But for now I'm going to show you how to make the hat. So I'm going to pause the video for 1 second while I get all my stuff together. So if you haven't already, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell, and you'll be informed when there are new videos. So I'm just going to pause it now, and I'll be back with you as soon as I've got all my stuff together. Okay, so I did check, and a J hook is indeed a 6mm. So that if you don't have the letters, then that's what you'll need. As long as it's a 6mm, I'm just sometimes when you pull the yarn out, it's in a little bit of a knot. So I'm just getting rid of that and ready to start. Okay. So I'm going to pull out some more yarn. Now to make this, because a lot of people just do either a magic loop, or you can just do chain there, and you can still pull it tight even if you do a chain start. So I'm going to do that and show you how I mean. So I'm going to just make my slip knot, if I can get rid of the tail. So there we are, there's the slip knot. So I'm going to chain 4. 4 is sufficient, and to chain obviously it's just yarn over and pull through. So I'm just going to assume that you know how to do these basic stitches. Now we're going to form a loop by slip stitching into that very first chain, and this will make a very small, and I mean very small, ring. So there we are, there's the ring, it's very small. Now it will grow a little bit as you work into it, and I'm going to do one chain and cinch it right down. Now I do that because it finishes off my edge nicely to my ring, but I don't want the chain to stick up. And I do this when I'm doing a short stitch, and by a short stitch I mean either a UK double, which is a US single, or a half treble in the UK, which is a half double. And that's what I'm going to be doing in this particular tutorial. So I'm going to yarn over, go into the center of that ring, yarn over and pull up a loop. So I have 3, yarn over and pull through all 3 of those. And I'm going to do that again. All of these are going into that center loop, and I'm going to do 12 all together. So I'm just going to carry on until I have 12. So that was, I don't count out loud in case you're doing it as well. It can be very off-putting. Now if you have to, just pull them aside. Now I think I have done 10, so I'm just going to stop there and count them, and I'm just going to pause it while I do, because otherwise it'd be a little bit boring for you. And I'm going to pop my fan on while it's paused. That's better, I was getting a bit warm. So actually that was 11, so it was a good job I counted. So this is my 12th, and now all I'm going to do, see there's the chain that was cinched down, and this is my stitch. Just going to slip stitch into that stitch. So I'm all the way round. Now when it's time to close it, just to pull some more yarn, when it's time to close it, all we really need to do is tug on this, and it closes just the same as if you had done the magic loop. So it's up to you if you want to do the magic loop, but when we secure this yarn, you do need to secure it tightly or you will get that hole. It's okay if it doesn't matter to you at all, but so now I'm going to do my one chain and cinch it right down. So I'm now onto my next round, and I'm going to do 2 half trebles, which are half doubles in the US, in each stitch, including this one. So there's my first and my second, and I'm going to do 2 in every single stitch. So at the end of this round I'm going to have 24 stitches. I like this stitch because it's nice and tight, but it's not the shortest stitch, so it's nice for like baby beanies and things like that, keeping little heads warm in the winter months, because it's nice and close. So I'm not really a fan of lacy kind of crochet. I don't mind sometimes. I've made a lacy scarf, I quite like it, but I prefer most of my crochet to have nice sort of close stitches. So keep going, doing 2 in each one of these stitches until we get all the way around. So I know I haven't got far to go, but so that it's not boring for you, I'm going to pause it and I'm going to catch up with you when I get back to here. So I'm back at the start again, and I'm just going to make sure by counting them that I have enough. There we go. So that's my first stitch right there. If you ever get confused where your first stitch is, just count them back and you'll work it out. Right, so now we're all the way around again. Do my one chain and cinch it down. So now I want to increase again, but this time only by 12. So rather than doing one in each stitch, I'm going to do in my first stitch, which is this one, I'm going to do 1, and in the next one I'm going to do 2, and then in the following stitch I'm going to do 1, and then the next one I'm going to do 2, and I'm going to repeat that all the way around. So we're increasing every other stitch. I don't think I went in whole stitch then. So this is my increase, and then it's a single one in the next one, and then an increase. So I'm going to carry on increasing in every other stitch all the way around until I get back to the start. So right now I'm just going to pause the video and catch up with you when I get all the way around. So just as I started with 1, my very last stitch will be an increase. So once I'm all the way round, all I have to do now is slip stitch into my first stitch. So now that's all the increasing that we're going to do for this size of beanie. Just going to pull out some more yarn, and now we're going to carry on without any increasing at all, and it will pucker and pull up. So I've done my chain and cinched it down, and now I'm just going to do one stitch in every single stitch all the way around. Just like that. And because we're not increasing anymore, it will kind of pull up to make it kind of a cup shape, but that's what we want it to do. You can already see it pulling in, starting to turn in, and it's perfectly fine. So just one in every single stitch. You'll still continue to have 36 stitches all the way around. So I'm going to pause the video now, carry on all the way around, and I shall catch up with you when I get back to the start. Okay, so now I'm all the way back to the start, going to slip stitch into my first stitch, and as you can see it's kind of curling inward, and it will continue to do that. So all I'm going to do now is carry on one stitch in every single stitch, and I'm going to do that until it's around, I'd say in total 8 rows. If I show you my finished one from here, from the start, there are 8 rows. Actually there are more than 8. I think it's 8 from, what am I talking about? Let me see how many rows we got together. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So that would be 8 from my increase, the end of my increasing. I knew there was 8 rows, but obviously 8 rows is not enough. So that's 8 rows without your increases. So 11 altogether. But we're just going to do that. So carry on exactly the same way until you have a total of 11 rounds. So this yarn, although it is a bulky 5 and classed in the UK as a chunky and in the US as a bulky 5, it is actually quite bulky, if that makes any sense. You know, there's a kind of a large tolerance in yarn from when you get a 3-weight DK, can be quite thin, or it can be fairly sort of chunkier. but not quite a 4 weight. So I find this one is actually quite thick. So I'm just carrying on exactly the same way, 1 in every stitch, and you can see it's actually making way more of a kind of cup shape now than it was. It's really pulling up, but that's exactly what you want. So when we get to the end of this row, I'll just show you how it's working out. Trying to speed up a little bit, because if I do go ahead of you at any time, then obviously just pause the video and catch up. But I just wanted to get to the end of that row so that I could do my slip stitch as usual and pull this out. So now, as you can see, it is kind of becoming like a dish. So if we pop that in the other way, this is the right side. And once you do that, you can see it's starting to take shape. Although it's got a bit of a way to go yet, we're kind of up here. So I'm just going to carry on now, exactly the same. And you might find the yarn that you use, you might need another row. You just kind of gauge it. As I say, this is quite chunky, but carry on until you've done from the start 11 rows, and I'll come back to you at that point. Okay, so I've now finished my 11th row, and I'm just going to slip stitch into my first stitch, which really not to be that difficult. And so now if I pull that out a little bit so that it doesn't unravel, and you can see it's the right shape of a hat. So if I get my tape and I put it there, it's about 5 inches. Now this yarn, even though it was the same make as the white, it's thicker. I can feel there's more, it's sturdier than this one's, a lot more drapey, and it was made exactly the same way, but there's not a great deal in it, as you can see. But it does kind of, this row isn't that big, so it's not a massive amount. But if I measure this one, then it's 5 inches. But this one is 5 inches without the fluff. Well, actually it's 4.5. No, it's not. It's nearly 5. Well, I suppose it's about the same. I've just got to put the fluffy border on. So it does feel a little bit thicker anyway. It's weird to me how some different colours of the same yarn will come up thicker than other colours. So now all I'm going to do is 1 chain, cinch it right down and pull it through, and then I will sew that in. So now all I've got to do is attach my little furry border. Now the white one that I put on the other colour is, although it's a chunky, still classed as a chunky, it is kind of like a little fluffy fringe, whereas this one is a little bit of more of a fluff. If I'll show you what I mean, the actual fluffy bit is longer, but it's not a massive amount of difference. So this one was just, as I said, a Peter Pan, just a Peter Pan Precious Chunky. I'm not sure that we'll be able to get hold of Peter Pan anymore, because since the pandemic, I think they've had a few problems. So I always try to attach the other side. You're not going to see where it's attached, purely because I only like to work over one tail at a time. So just going to pull that through. Now I do my first chain with my working yarn, hold that and my tail, just like that, and I cinch it down a little bit, drop the tail, and now I'm just going to work as normal, but I'm going to work over this tail. So I'm just going to do 1 half double in the US, half treble in the UK in each of my stitches all the way around, and it's just going to add this little furry edge. If you wanted it to be bigger, you could always add another row if you wanted the fur to be a little bit more prominent. But I quite liked it just having this little tiny fur edge. But it really depends on your preference, what you think looks better. It's really difficult to see it when you've got a camera in the way, but it's because it's furry, you don't always see your stitches. But just go slow and make sure you've gone through them all. Not catching. Just go all the way around. And then when we get to where the join was, where I ended off, I'm going to work over this tail as well. So that way it's a little bit less to sew in. I did have some pink, but I used it with a baby mile a minute blanket that I was making. So I only had the one ball, and next time I pop to Hobbycraft, I'll be able to see if they've got any more. I'm just going to zoom in just a little bit. And I just need to go find my stitch here. I'll go into there. It doesn't really make a great deal of difference as long as we've got all our stitches covered. The beauty of working with the fluffy yarn is that it does cover a lot of things. If you weren't sure if that, when you've got your join, if you weren't sure where to go into, nobody's actually going to see it because it's too hairy. Just going to go all the way around with this furry border. Still got the same 36 stitches. It's kind of hard to catch that. There we are. Got it. I don't know why the hook wants to catch on this fluffy yarn. It doesn't catch on the normal yarn. I need to pull some out, I think. But you can do any colour. I did have a grey. I did toy with the idea of putting grey with the pink. One thing I didn't have was white, but I do have this called a creamy colour. So now I've got all the way round, and all I need to do now is to just slip stitch. You can feel you're going into the right place. I'm going to make that stitch long, then I'm going to take a look at it, and I'm going to zoom out to do that. There we are. So that's what it looks like, and if you wanted to, you could just do another row, but I kind of like the little fluffy edge. Let's just see what it looks like with one more row. And it's going to be hard to see where we're going because you've now got furry stitches, but you can feel them. You can feel where your stitches go. If you feel along, you can just feel the next space quite easy. So that's what it would look like with another row. I quite like it with this one. So to make it different to the white one, I'm just going to do, and I'm going to carry on with this one more row. It's a slightly different look then to the same hat. They're both going to the same person, so it'd be nice for them to be a little bit different. Let's just go all the way around. You can kind of see, I know it doesn't look like you can, but you can kind of see where the stitches are, even if, and you can feel them, so it's quite easy to go into the right spot. And as I said before, if you don't, who is going to see? Who's going to notice? As long as it's in, you're not really going to see anything, are you? But it's, as I say, it's quite easy to see. So I'm in that one. No, you need to go in that one. If you get a little bit lost, you can always feel your way. Must be nearly there, surely. Sorry if I keep hitting my hook on the camera. Trying to get as close as I can for you, because it's hard to see the fluffy bits. That's it. Must be almost there. Yeah, not far now. And when you sew this in, it's the same thing applies really. It's quite easy to hide the tail. That bit. So one more stitch. No. There we are, just slip stitch, same as normal. Grab the scissors. Nice long tail for sewing in. And cinch it down and pull it through. So there we are. We've got our little furry hat. Isn't that cute? So we'll sew that in and then we turn it in the other way. If you want to make this so that there's a little hole, you can put a pom-pom or something on, or you can cinch it really closed. You can leave the little hole, it doesn't matter. But as long as you put a little sew a little knot in and then trace your yarn through, and there's the hat, nice and finished. That's the only seam that you'll see, little diagonal seam. But there we go, there's that one, and there it is in white. So there's not a great deal of difference in the size, although this one should be longer because it does have a whole row more. Granted, it's just a little fluffy row, so it's not massively different. But it just feels bigger, it feels chunkier. And interestingly, you can't really see the little flecks of colour too easily either. Now it's worked up. But on this one, obviously, they're really bright. So thanks for watching. And if you haven't already, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. You'll be informed when there are new videos. And watch out again for this one. I'm going to do this next and be uploading them. As I said, it'll be left and right handed tutorials. So thank you for watching. Bye bye for now.